In every generation, there comes a mind that refuses to accept the limits of the present. A soul that looks at the impossible and quietly whispers, "Why not?" This is the story of one such man. A thinker, a dreamer, and a builder who transformed his questions into machines, his curiosity into movement, and his vision into reality. When he was young, he didn't know what his life would become. People around him asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, but there was no clear answer. He wasn't chasing fame or wealth or recognition. What truly fascinated him was the idea of creation, the act of bringing something into existence that had never existed before. As a child, he stumbled upon a quote by a great science fiction writer. "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Those words stayed with him. They sparked a vision, the belief that one day, technology itself could become a kind of modern magic, capable of reshaping the human experience. He often imagined how people centuries ago would have seen the inventions we now take for granted: airplanes flying through the clouds, tiny screens connecting the world in an instant, voices traveling through invisible waves of data. To them, this would have been witchcraft. But to him, it was proof that magic is simply science we haven't understood yet. And so he began to dream not of castles or kingdoms, but of circuits, stars, and machines that could outlast him. He realized early that if he could contribute to the advancement of technology, he could create a form of modern magic, something that could touch lives far beyond his own. Yet even in those early years, a quiet question haunted him: what does it all mean? He wrestled with thoughts that most people avoid about existence, purpose, and the meaning of consciousness itself. And eventually, he came to a conclusion that shaped the rest of his life. If humanity could expand its understanding of the universe, if we could grow the scope and scale of human awareness, then maybe, just maybe, we could uncover the answers that define our purpose. To do that, he would need two things: a deep understanding of how the universe works, and an understanding of how people work together to build it. So, he studied physics to explore the laws of reality, and business to understand the forces that shape human progress. Because great ideas mean little unless they can gather people, resources, and momentum. He moved to the United States with a single suitcase and a collection of wild dreams. He wanted to make a difference, to be part of something larger than himself. At first, his focus was energy, finding ways to make power more efficient, more sustainable. But fate had other plans. In the mid-1990s, a new revolution was taking shape: the internet. A young network of minds, ideas, and endless possibilities. He saw what few others could see: that the internet would soon change everything. So, instead of chasing an uncertain technology in a lab, he jumped headfirst into the digital frontier. His first venture was small, just an idea built on late nights and borrowed computers. But it grew. It connected people, solved problems, and began to shape how the world would exchange information and value. He didn't just ride the wave of change, he helped to create it. From those early years, he learned one lesson that would guide every decision that followed. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards adaptation. When people ignored the difficult parts of his work and focused on something simpler, he listened. He learned that innovation isn't about forcing your ideas onto the world. It's about listening, evolving, and aligning your vision with what people truly need, even when they don't yet realize it. That small insight became the seed for everything that followed. Because once you learn to see feedback as fuel instead of failure, growth becomes inevitable. After his first success, many would have stopped. Most people, after tasting a bit of victory, choose comfort. But for him, comfort was a trap, a slow death of curiosity. He sold his first company, not to retire, but to move closer to something far more ambitious. When people asked what he would do next, he spoke of the future, a future where humanity would no longer depend solely on Earth. A time when we would become a multi-planetary species. At first, it sounded like madness. Who dreams of rockets when the world is still learning to use the internet? But in his mind, it was simple. If life is precious, shouldn't we do everything we can to preserve it, even beyond this one planet? That's how SpaceX was born, not as a company, but as a mission. He knew the road ahead would be brutal. Rockets fail, engines explode, dreams burn in silence. But he also knew that every failure carries a message, and only those who keep listening eventually hear the truth. The first 3 launches failed. Each one carried not just a rocket, but the weight of people's faith, investors' trust, and his own sanity. Most companies would have collapsed after the first loss. He came dangerously close to losing everything financially, emotionally, and even physically. But he refused to stop. In interviews, he later said, "If something is important enough, even if the odds are against you, you should still do it." That wasn't a quote. It was survival philosophy. Because deep down, he wasn't just building rockets. He was building the belief that humanity could reach beyond its cradle. Then came the 4th launch. This time, everything worked. The rocket lifted into the sky not just as a machine of metal and fire, but as a symbol of human persistence. The dream had survived. And from that moment, SpaceX wasn't just another aerospace company, it was proof that private individuals could achieve what once belonged only to nations. But he wasn't done. While SpaceX was conquering the skies, another battle was brewing on the ground: the war for sustainable energy. He looked around and saw a world dependent on fossil fuels, polluting its own home in the name of progress. He wanted to change that too. So he turned his attention to electric cars. At the time, most people laughed at the idea. Electric vehicles were seen as weak, slow, and impractical. But he saw something else: a future where performance and sustainability could coexist. When he joined Tesla, he didn't just want to build cars. He wanted to redefine what cars could mean. They would be fast, intelligent, and beautiful, a machine that felt alive. The vision was simple. If you want people to choose sustainability, you must first make it desirable. And once again, the path was brutal. Production issues, delays, and criticism came from every direction. The media called Tesla a failure waiting to happen. Analysts said it was impossible to survive against the giants of the automotive industry. But once again, he ignored the noise and focused on the signal. He spent nights in the factory, sleeping on the floor beside the machines. He said he wanted to feel the same pain as the people building those cars, because leadership isn't about comfort, it's about responsibility. That moment became legendary. The man trying to colonize Mars was also tightening bolts on Earth. Eventually, Tesla succeeded. The world began to notice. Electric cars were no longer a fantasy, they were the future. And as Tesla's batteries improved, they began to power more than cars. They powered homes, cities, and ideas. The message was clear: technology, when driven by purpose, can transform reality. But his mission wasn't about wealth or status. It was always about one thing: to push humanity forward, one breakthrough at a time. And yet, behind all these victories, there was exhaustion. The burden of responsibility grew heavier. The public saw innovation, but rarely the sleepless nights, the pressure, and the constant threat of failure. Still, he continued, because stopping was never an option. In one of his interviews, he said something that defines his entire journey. "You shouldn't do things just because they're easy. You should do them because they matter." Those words echo far beyond business or technology. They speak to every dreamer who has ever faced doubt. Even after conquering the skies and transforming energy on Earth, his mind remained restless. For him, progress is never finished. Every milestone is only a stepping stone toward the next horizon. He often reflected on humanity's place in the universe. Civilization, in the grand timeline of Earth, is fragile and fleeting. Writing and knowledge have existed for barely a blink in the history of life. Yet consciousness continues to expand slowly, persistently. And he realized that to protect this precious spark, humanity must reach beyond its cradle. That vision became his guiding star: a multi-planet future, a backup for life, a chance to ensure that human consciousness can survive and flourish. He understood that such an endeavor would not be easy. It would require technology that pushed the boundaries of what is considered possible. It would require machines that could travel through space again and again, without waste, without failure. It would demand courage, ingenuity, and a relentless refusal to accept the limits of the present. Meanwhile, on Earth, he continued to challenge conventional thinking. Electric cars, energy storage, and sustainable power were no longer mere ideas, they were realities. And each success reinforced one truth: people need to experience possibility in order to believe it. Calculations on paper are insufficient. Tangible proof changes hearts and minds. The first electric sports car, the first long-range battery, the first reusable rocket, these were not just achievements of engineering, but symbols that humanity can rewrite its own story. Throughout his journey, one idea remained constant. Imagination is the only limit. He believed that anyone, anywhere, can change the course of the future if they are willing to act, to persist, and to endure failure. He didn't create for fame, nor wealth, nor applause. He created because he could see a world that might be better, and he refused to wait for someone else to make it happen. In reflecting on his path, one lesson emerges above all others. Greatness is born not from talent alone, but from vision coupled with relentless execution. It is nurtured in the silence of late nights, in the patience to correct mistakes, in the courage to confront the impossible. It is measured not by the absence of failure, but by the persistence to rise every time the world says no. He often reminds us that the future belongs to those who build it, those who dream beyond the present constraints, those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. And in this quiet, unwavering determination, he invites all of us to do the same, to see the impossible not as a wall, but as a challenge. In the end, his journey is not only about rockets, cars, or sustainable energy. It is about the human spirit, our capacity to imagine, to create, and to endure. It is a reminder that the universe is vast, but so too is our potential. It is a call to action, to dream boldly, to act courageously, and to leave the world better than we found it. And as this story comes to a close, it leaves a lingering truth. The future is not predetermined. It is built, moment by moment, by those willing to persist, to innovate, and to believe. And in that, perhaps, lies the greatest magic of all. This has been the journey of a visionary mind, a man who saw the future not as a place to arrive at, but as a canvas to create. And for every listener today, the question remains, what will you build with your imagination? You've been listening to Beyond the Words. Stay curious, stay fearless, and continue your journey beyond the words.